Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Wytpod. My name is Harshit, and I'm the Director of Business Alliances at White Labs. We're a digital agency specializing in SaaS and e-commerce SEO. And I've got Michael with me today. He's the head of marketing at Predibase. Now, Predibase makes it easy for engineering team to cost effectively fine tune and serve small open source LLMs and state of the art infrastructure in the cloud without sacrificing on the quality. So, a big welcome to you, Michael. So happy to have you with me today.
Yeah, happy to join. Thanks for having me.
And I would love to start with your journey. How exactly has that been so far for you? And becoming the head of marketing at Predibase, what really excites you about this role?
Yeah, there's a lot that excites me about it. I love being at early stage startups. I think when you're in a company, a Series A company, you're brought in as like the first marketing hire or brought in to build out marketing. It's really greenfield, and there's a lot of opportunity to try new things, to be innovative, to build a lot of firsts and build a lot of like success in those first sort of things you do. A lot of experimentation. So it's super fun environment to be in if you're up for the challenge, if you like that dynamic environment. But I've been in the startup world now for over 10 years. And I would say I was very fortunate to actually work at Databricks prior to Predibase. And Databricks, amazing company on the forefront of sort of data and AI. And that really gave me, I think, the bug for this love of startups, because I joined there when there was probably a couple hundred people and got to see truly explosive growth. So by the time I left 5 years later, the company was about 5,000 people. And I got to see what a startup looks like at each stage of its life cycle, from like those early days where you're just like I described before at Predibase. What drew me to Predibase, that scrappiness of being on small teams, working with your founders hand in hand, working with engineers, a lot of experimentation, wearing a lot of different hats. When I joined Databricks, I was brought in for product marketing, but one day I might be doing customer marketing and working on a customer keynote for a meetup. The other day, next day, I might be actually planning the execution of that meetup. The day after that, I'll be working on a launch. So there's really excitement, I think, early on to wear those hats. And then I got to see Databricks through that growth of like early stage to mid, late stage growth. Whereas your company grows, you really start to focus on like optimization. So it goes from rapid fire experimentation, actually now digging into how can we refine our strategy? What sort of targeting works best? We massage the messaging based on a persona or vertical level. What are the tactics that really are working best, and digging down in there? And so got to see that journey from like scrappiness of early stage to like focus and optimization or later stage startup. And that really enjoyed that. But where my heart is, as I mentioned before, is really early stage startups. And that's what drew me then from Databricks back into Predibase, where now I got to come in and build marketing from the ground up.
Gotcha. And because like you have got a good exposure into B2B space altogether, I would love to understand how do you approach building marketing strategies for a high growth startup like Predibase?
Yeah, I think there's a few things you need to consider. First, maybe two things early on. If you're coming in as the first marketer of a high growth startup or one of the early marketers, the first thing you need to do is really understand the product, right? What is the product that we're selling? What is the value of it? And you do that through conversations with the early customers. You need to understand why they're using the product, the value they get for it. As a marketer, you're out there telling stories, trying to convince people to use what you have, right? Whatever it is you're building. So the first thing you do in early stage startup, you got to know those customers. There's a quote, you should know what school does your early customer son go to, as an example. You don't have to be that obsessive, but the point is you really need to dig into like why they're using it, what matters, what's important to them, understand those personas. That's job number one. Job number two is like an early marketer, I'd say, is at an early stage startup is building the infrastructure so you can actually market. Right? You have the tooling and capabilities to build a funnel, bring leads in, track those leads, automate emails, set up campaigns and webinars and landing pages. Need some sort of like marketing automation tooling, maybe some SEO tooling, things that track how you're doing with your content. But you need that infrastructure to go market. Yeah. Once you have that base knowledge and have the tools you need to be successful, then I would say there's maybe two jobs in my mind at an early stage company. One of those is breaking through the noise. Predibase, we're in the generative AI space. This is an incredibly noisy space, super hot space. Everyone's excited about generative AI, but breaking through that noise, you've got to really work hard at that. And the key to doing that is, building like hard-hitting content, knowing your audiences, building content that like really resonates with them. We market to developers. So with developers, you've got to have really things that are rooted in truth and fact and benchmarks. And so showing them like tutorials and ways to do things that helps cut through. So I'd say one is building that content engine so you cut through the noise. The second thing that I think is critically important at an early stage company is really giving your sales teams at bats. And what I mean by that, look, early on, you've got to build, you're trying to close your first 10, 20 customers. And so you've got to be bringing people in, generating leads so your sales team, qualified leads, your sales teams can have meaningful meetings that hopefully convert into pipeline and opportunities. So for me, it's once you get the base knowledge and the infrastructure in place, it's like how are we cutting through the noise with our content and programs, and then how we just have a constant funnel of leads so our sales team isn't getting bored.
I agree. All right. What are some of the key elements of your go-to-market strategy that you're currently focusing on?
Yeah, for us at the stage we're at, we've built over the last, I've been here about 2 years, we've built a pretty rockin' inbound motion. So we have a few things that have, contributed to that. So again, as mentioned before, I'm a very demand-centric marketer. I'm all about creating at-bats and opportunities for my sales team. So we run a webinar every 2 to 3 weeks. We try to be very educational in nature with that content. Look, we're marketing developers, right? We can't just tell them this is cool technology. We have to show them it's cool technology. We have to show them why it's cool. We got to show them how it makes a difference. We're running webinars every 2 to 3 weeks with either some sort of how-to or showing some new technical capabilities we've built. So we do that every 2 to 3 weeks. We run the occasional meetup. We had one a few weeks ago. I had a few hundred people in San Francisco. So we have a pretty healthy funnel of just like inbound leads coming in. We have a free trial we launched about a year and a half ago. So that combined, every given month, we have anywhere 500, 1,000 plus leads coming in. So that's always going to be a core for me, especially at growth stage. Like you have to keep that and finding ways to grow that efficiently. So that's always a key part of the strategy, bringing leads in, growing it efficiently, make sure those leads are qualified. I'd say where we're starting to evolve our thinking or focus a bit more right now is all on the quality. So we know how to bring leads in at a pretty healthy rate, but now it's like making sure that we're bringing the right leads in and qualifying them properly. As I mentioned before, we're in generative AI. So this is a very hot industry. I make a joke all the time that like I could throw a webinar down the street in San Francisco about an LLM or generative AI topic, and people are going to sign up. People want to know about this cutting edge technology. So it's not necessarily always hard to generate inbound or people to come to those programs, but how are we getting the right people to come to those programs? And so there's things that we're testing different messaging, we're testing our targeting, the channels we use to market those programs. And then on the sort of back end is making sure that when the leads come in, we have good scoring so that we're not just passing everything over our sales team, right? We're passing the stuff that is really good because their time is limited too, right? They've got to focus their time. I want to give them the best leads to work so they have a higher success rate. So for us right now, it's just now that we have this inbound motion, just again, trying to focus a bit more to make sure we get the most qualified leads into the pipeline.
Gotcha. And you mentioned it right. Correct me if I'm wrong. You're targeting multiple industries altogether. There's healthcare, there's finance, there's retail, right? So that's pretty broad. How do you basically tailor your message to resonate with such broad industries and different industries?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's interesting because I didn't really note on it earlier, but when I was at Databricks early on, I wore many hats. What I ended up focusing on the later years as we got into that later stage growth was actually building out our industry product marketing function. And what that was really our charter was how can we get deeper within these industries, accelerate growth with those industry audiences. And so what I was doing there was building a team that really focused on how do we take this really cool AI product and all these features that's built into the product and map that to the use cases and problems that are specific to that industry and talk in the language of that industry, right? So if you're talking in life sciences, you might be talking to a biostatistician or someone in bioinformatics. They might have slightly different titles. And so you might have to target differently in the language they use. You're talking to someone who's doing analysis around some sort of genomics data set, the language they're going to use is differently. Or if you're talking in healthcare, the value they're looking at is maybe patient outcomes as like metrics. And so the way you talk in your marketing is very critical. And then aligning sort of those capabilities to the use cases really matter quite a bit. And you can see what ends up happening is when you do that is you'll see like an increase on like your deal size down funnel. You'll see faster opportunities move faster for the funnel. You start to connect that sort of industry messaging and value to your product. But what I would say is for where we are today, Predibase, we're still a little bit early for that. To me, like that is a bit more of a mid-stage growth sort of a goal and challenge is how do you connect to that next level industry messaging. Where we're at today is still at that phase of like perfectly honing in on our ICP, like who's our ideal personas, what is the like 3 to 4 like key messages that really resonate with them. We're seeing good signs in different pockets, but I think when you're Series A, you're always trying to triangulate to find that perfect sort of messaging and persona fit so that you see that crazy liftoff. And that's where we're at. We're seeing that growth, but we need to double down on figuring that out. Once you get that figured out, then you can start to do really cool stuff like, okay, how do we optimize further for an industry vertical? Or how do we take, maybe there's 3 core personas we're talking to. How do we build messaging strategies for those different personas and those different industries? I think that's a bit later for us. I will say where industry messaging maybe comes into play for us today is we do run things like lookalike campaigns. So we look at our early customers. Okay, so let's just take one. We have a great customer reference and they're like a fintech company, some sort of digital bank. Okay, if we know their use case and why they're using our platform, we can use that with our sales team to build them really good outbounding messaging, come up with a really good targeted account list, and even like maybe make them a lightweight asset, like a solution brief that they can go market. So we're starting to do more like lookalike campaigns with some of our initial customers, like taking that sort of what we learned from those customers and using it to attract similar looking customers. But that's probably the depth of where we'll go with industry messaging at the moment. You can go way deeper and into programs, like really integrated campaigns around industries. That's a bit further from where we are today.
Gotcha. All right, now I'm going to be a little biased and ask you how exactly SEO fit into your overall marketing strategy. And especially your product is way too technical in nature.
Yeah. Look, SEO, I would say it's not like whether or not it's important. It absolutely is important. Like it should always be top of mind in what you're doing. I think it's more about the level of like investment in time and money and how you can like rally around it. So for us, like we're still pretty small marketing team. There's 3 people on the team. It's myself, product marketer, and like a community of developer marketing person. We're running webinars every 2-3 weeks. We're running meetups. We're we're publishing a blog every week. We're building out our website. We're doing a ton, right? Working with the sales team with our outbounding campaigns. So the challenge that I actually face with SEO right now is there's a lot of great tools like the tools you guys offer out there. We have experimented with others in the past. I really believe in those tools. It's incredibly helpful when you can understand how you're performing relative to your competitors, where those gaps are, and then go attack it with your content. The challenge we have is making sure we have enough of that like people power hours to dig in and actually like process and parse those insights and turn them into useful information. Also, I don't have the deep expertise in some of those tools, admittedly. If you can find someone who's used them or can spend the time, I think you can get a ton of value out of them. But that aside, like it's still very much part of our thinking what we do. So we use a lot of things like Google Analytics, Google Search Console, and some of the other things to first of all, understand, hey, is any of our content resonating? What are people searching for and finding us? Are those the right things we want to be found for? Sometimes it is. There's keywords that are very important to us where we're ranking. I'm like, awesome. There's other keywords that we built a blog around that turns out is not that important to us. Okay, we don't need it. We need to diminish those sort of activities, double down on the ones that matter. And then there's keywords we know we're not ranking for because we can see it. And one that guides our content strategy, just those insights alone, you can get pretty far. And then when that's figuring out like, where are we, where aren't we building content? I think especially when you're marketing developers, content is incredibly critical. Right? Content is king. That is how you break the noise. That you publishing helpful, hard-hitting content on a regular basis. And so we're always looking at what do we want to build content on thematically that is important to us, important to customers, and can help in search. The other one is when you start to see things that work with some of these tools. So we had a blog as an example. I know you'll appreciate this as someone who's like very passionate about SEO. We had a blog where we wrote about one of the most popular models at the time. I think it was one of the maybe meta models, llama models. And we did a tutorial around it, had just been released. And so there was a lot of like noise in the market. People were like, oh, I want to use this model. And so we did a tutorial and I made sure that like from an SEO strategy, the basics were covered. Like we mentioned the model in the headline of the article or the blog. We made sure it was like in our H1, H2 to different like places throughout the blog. We had good density. And that single blog, this was like early on in our life cycle, that single blog like ended up doubling, tripling our web traffic because it caught wind. It ranked very highly. And it was very focused around a problem people were solving. Like, I want to use this model. I want to use it for this task. We had both those in the headline. And so I think there's a little bit of art and science. If we just threw it out there, we knew it was topic was popular. We didn't know it was as popular as it was. And then by using those tools I could see it was having an impact on our web traffic. We then we implement that strategy moving forward. So when a new model came out, we'd go issue a new blog following that same structure, and it continues to deliver. So I think it's important that you always have SEO top of mind, whether you can use the tools to their full extent or not. You should be using them, some level of them, to get insights, and then using that to unlock these things that are to give you disproportionate growth like we saw.
Yeah, For sure, for sure. Any specific KPIs that you prioritize when it comes to, just measuring the success of your SEO effort or your content efforts?
Absolutely. Honestly, like we're always looking at web traffic. We're always trying to grow it. It started, we're always trying to grow your web traffic like every single month. Doesn't always happen, no, but you're always trying to do it. And so I'm always looking right at what are the sort of blogs and content and pages that are driving disproportionate growth. So once looking at web traffic and where it's coming in, as I mentioned before, like we found that cheat code early on with that blog topic that resonated, it did really well from a organic ranking perspective. We now use that as a trick, right? We publish blogs that follow that same structure and it works well for us. So I think finding those cheat codes or hacks that and looking at the web traffic and the impact. So you got to look at the web traffic and search queries, like triangulate that. So that's super critical. We look at that. Another one that's been pretty interesting for us was looking at, we have a free trial we launched about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And so we have on the free trial a couple of things. So one, people can self-select, like, how did you learn about us? So they'll fill that in on the form. So I use that data. Plus, I'm also looking at what page they visit before they did a free trial. And that's been another great insight for us because we can see when certain blog topics, if honestly, most blogs at best generate 1 or 2 free trials, are not like big difference makers, but you do hit those ones that have disproportionate growth where suddenly saw, wow, 100 free trials came from this blog. Okay, let's understand why that's happening. Let's see if we can replicate that success. So traffic, looking at sort of some of those both inbound traffic and search queries, but also looking at how it leads into different CTAs like free trial has been incredibly useful.
Okay. And are you using any specific tools for just studying the visitor behavior on your website or just for your conversion rate optimization?
Yeah, honestly, like this comes back to the size and the sort of size of your company and ability to like fully leverage these tools. We're pretty small. And so I try not to do too much investment in tools where we won't be able to fully utilize them. So it tends to be more of the free stuff like Google Search Analytics, Google Search Console. Bing has their own. We have HubSpot under the hood. So we do pipe in data from, there's some interesting insights that get parsed in there. Like I mentioned, like we can see page traffic to like a landing page, like a free trial. We'll look at those things. We do run paid ads. So I'm looking at LinkedIn conversion from time to time or Google conversion on those ads to understand, is there certain messaging or things that work well. Obviously looking at things like email conversion and stuff like that into sort of our webinars and campaigns as well to see how those things are converting. So a lot of it is in our basic stack, like HubSpot, Salesforce and all that. There's a lot more. You can get way more sophisticated though. There's definitely things I'm also very interested in that we haven't quite implemented yet that I think is a future state. There's all these great intent signal tools where you can like see, okay, are people doing certain behaviors either on my properties or externally? Like one popular one is looking at developers who are they visiting and contributing to GitHub repositories that are relevant to my business. Should I go target those people? That's super powerful for sales. Those are areas we're going to be investing in. And then also like we have started implementing things like we get Slack notification if someone's on our pricing page and doing stuff. So we are starting to implement some of those new capabilities I think can really give you an edge where you can catch people who are somewhere in the funnel but haven't made it obvious. Those are some new areas for us that I'm excited about.
Amazing, man. All right. Now, when it comes to the core USPs of your solution, what are those? What are the differentiating factors that sets your company apart from this competitive space?
Yeah, look, this is a hyper competitive space. There's like a gold rush around generative AI. The minute that OpenAI came out with ChatGPT, that really set the world on fire. And so people are very excited about LLMs, the opportunity. And so there's a lot of new startups. There's like a Y Combinator startup every single day that's trying to capture some portion of the market. And so are we, right? I think for us, how do we differentiate? Look, we made a bet early on. Our bet was that you have these large commercial models that are built by companies like ChatGPT, like OpenAI, the GPT models. They're very powerful. They're good models. I'm not going to tell you they're bad models. They're great models, but they're expensive and they're very big. And when it comes down to when you talk to the customers who are using these tools, oftentimes they have a specific problem they're trying to solve, a specific use case. And so you can use a very big, oversized model that's expensive and slow to solve that use case, but you actually can use you're better off taking a small open source model, which there are many. They're much cheaper. You own the model because it's open source, and you can customize it for your use case and get better, at least equivalent results like a GPT-4 or even better. And so we made this bet early on that, hey, we think the future of small models that are smaller, cheaper, faster, and actually more effective for your use case. And we've really centered like our marketing and product around that. And what's been really interesting is that the market has really started to lean into this. If you've tracked like Apple and the Apple Intelligence sort of platform that they launched recently, or they're launching in their next set of iPhones, right? The whole generative AI capabilities. It's exactly what they're talking about too, which is, hey, like we've built these little tiny small models that are really good at individual tasks. And that's really what our sort of thesis has been, and we've marketed around it. And I think just holding true to that and just building our capabilities in support of that sort of vision has helped differentiate us. There's other people who talk about small models or that are talking about LLMs, but I think we've really built a strong story around that and just being focused on it. And then I'd say the other things that set us apart is honestly just providing not only incredible product, but just incredible support to our customers. That's hard to like translate. You don't translate to like value-based messaging, honestly, in the market, but like it resonates with some of the big brands that we've won. Like recently, like Checker just gave a talk for us at a recent event we held. They're a background check company, does 1.5 million background checks a month. And if you listen to his talk, he talks about all the Predibase has unlocked these small models that have really improved our workflows for how we do background checks, but also talks about like the team is just there with me in lockstep, true partnership, helping me solve my problems, very quick to respond to our needs. And so it's interesting because those value props, you don't really talk about in your marketing, but I think early stage, like your founders have to be embedded in those sales conversations, have to be working with customers. Like you have to do that to set yourself out apart from these bigger companies that have much bigger teams. I think that's critically important, although again, it doesn't get translated to a value prop we talk about.
It definitely does. All right. Like I would love to gain a better insight onto the community marketing side of things that you have in place. How exactly are you engaging and educating your target audience through that?
Yeah, for sure. So I think when we think about like developers, they're very big in community, right? And so we have some open source projects like Lorax, which we support. And so we have like Discord channel and regularly engage with our communities there, posting content, answering, making sure like you're very timely with the sort of any customer support or engineering type questions. So having teams that are embedded in those communities, answering questions, supporting them. I think a big part is also just like I mentioned before, content is king. So are you regularly publishing content? And I think about content, obviously, as a marketer, all content to some degree is self-serving. We're trying to get people to want to use our product, but that can't be the primary or obvious goal of the content. The way I approach content is very much what is a problem that our community is facing.
Yeah.
They're maybe trying to like, hey, I want to get better accuracy out of my model. So I'm trying to solve this customer support use case, or I'm having trouble building infrastructure to serve these models in real time. What are those problems they're trying to solve? And then mapping that back to the things we're building so that when we have content and like having the content tell that story. So when I have content, we always start with, here's a problem you're trying to solve, right? Here's what we understand about it. Here's how you can solve it. Now we're going to show you how to solve it. And so trying to be very educational in nature, I think is critical. Developers see through that thin veneer of fake marketing where it's just, if you just go out there and speeds and feeds, say we're the best and the fastest, that's not really going to work with them. The proof is in the pudding, right? They want to actually see how it works. They want to get in the code. And we very much focus our community efforts on building content that helps educate people. And sometimes, honestly, we may be educating them on open source technology, on different techniques that you can do with or without our platform. And I think that's part of it too. So it can't all just be self-serving. Yeah, we try and map our platform, the problems they have, but also we just try and show them how to solve these problems, how to think of them differently with or without us. And I think like when you think about community marketing, so content is a really critical piece of that. And that content is told in many vehicles. You have blogs, you have webinars, we do meetups, like we do all those things in some sort of combination, and then video content too.
Gotcha. And how exactly is the churn rate in the organization? And any specific strategies that you have in place for your customer retention side of things?
Man, we're so early. I think churn is probably critical when you have hundreds of customers. I think it's always important, right? I think you have probably bigger customer success and churn strategies when you have hundreds of customers. We're fortunate that like our customers are all very manageable and the relationships are very deep. Churn means a lot to us, right? Like we don't want to lose a quality customer. And so in those, we just invest in a lot of those relationships. It's less of a marketing strategy right now, more of just an organizational strategy, right? So like our founders are embedded there, our engineers are embedded there. We have Slack channels open with all of our core customers, right? Where we're helping them be successful. We're bringing them on as design partners to build new capabilities. So it's a very deeply entrenched relationship in a Series A company. As we get bigger, I'm sure we'll have more like marketing strategies around churn, but right now it's more of like full company press on just being as supportive of these as possible. I will say, I think it's important though at early stage, this is more on the sales side, I guess specifically. It's just as important as like retaining your customers that matter. It's also understanding, is this a good opportunity for us? Is this a good customer? And sometimes saying no is the right thing. Sometimes when you're early on and you're trying to get your first set of customers, you have a habit of wanting to be like, yes, we want all of them. We'll do that. We'll do that thing. We'll do that thing. We want that customer. But actually, like, they may not be the right customer for you. Those capabilities they want may not actually support the broader set of customers that are a good fit for you. So it's also important not only to save the customers that matter, but also say no to maybe the customers that aren't going to be the best fit for you, or even that you maybe can't even build the best solution for them. You got to make sure that you're managing that appropriately.
Yeah. All right. Now, any specific new trends when it comes to specifically in AI and machine learning that you see influencing your marketing strategies within your space and anything that you're basically adapting to?
Yeah. Look, maybe this is a bit controversial in a way, but we're a generative AI company. We're a generative AI infrastructure. I think LMs, large language models, there's so many great use cases for them. I don't think they're a cure-all for every use case. And so I see a lot of people getting excited about generative content as an example. And this is where it might be a little controversial. I think you're taking the wrong strategy if you're going to ChatGPT and having them like write you a blog and then thinking you can pass that off. You're going to get something that lacks that like richness or detail that your audiences crave. You're going to get something back that lacks the soul you need to like really connect with your audiences. So I think with generative tools or AI ML, it's using them in the right way. And there's a lot of like people talking about how to use them, and I believe like in the wrong way. Example, like, hey, I'm gonna just have this tool write me a blog, go post it. You're gonna kill your audiences that way. They're not gonna connect with your content. I think the right ways are finding ways to optimize your workflow. So like maybe using like generative AI to say, hey, I've written this blog, help me like clean up, change the tone of it, get more of a business tone, or help me like, how can I simplify this paragraph that I've written? It doesn't, I feel like I might be losing readers too wordy. I got phrase, how can you help me do that? I think things like that are incredibly helpful. Or like summarization tasks are great too. That like customer service support cases where, hey, summarize this phone script into the key points. As a marketer, a way to use that is if I'm interviewing a customer to do a case study, use an AI ML generative AI tool to summarize that conversation so I get the key points that help me then write this customer case study, right? I think that is how we want to use these tools. And so I think there's a lot of people going out there like with these overstatements, over promises of what they can do, when the best way is actually to find out how to use them in your workflows to be more effective. We're not trying to automate ourselves out of a job here, right? That's one that wouldn't be effective, nor does anyone really want that. How do we find ways to use these tools to be more effective? And so things like using generative tools, improve your writing, to summarize things, to like shorten workflows. The other area I'm really excited about, we talked about a little bit earlier, is all of the sort of signal-based alerts and triaging. So using these tools to identify, like there, if I think about our company and our ICP, there's probably like 10,000 people we can target in North America, right? Who could be potential great customers. But not all of them are like in the right part of their journey to want to evaluate our tools. Not all of them are truly deep within maybe the further along experimenting with tools like ours. And so there's a lot of these really cool signal alert tools that can look at, okay, how are these different people contributing to GitHub repositories? What are they posting on Reddit? What are they out there in the public in these communities saying, and the tools are using to help you then narrow your focus in your sales team to say, hey, look, of these 10,000 people we can focus on, here's 500 we know are doing the activities that are wrestling with the problems that we solve because we see the activities they're doing online, or they like raise their hands in different ways that aren't as obvious as like filling out a lead gen form on a website. They're doing things online in communities. How can we use that to then target our efforts towards them to help bring them into our funnel? Those are tools I'm super excited about. There's like marketers who are doing great work around that. It's an area that we're going to be investing more in.
Gotcha. All right. Any specific key priorities that you have in mind for you and your marketing team for the next 12 months, and any specific goals that you're aiming to achieve?
Growth, baby. I think like your Series A company, it's all about ICP fitted and growth. So we found some really great traction. We're seeing good growth. Now I just want to put the gasoline on the fire and figure out how we just accelerate that even more. So growth is just incredibly important. Continue to grow our funnel, get more qualified leads in, more meetings for our sales team, more opportunities. I'd say a big focus I mentioned earlier in our conversation is all around quality. So we found some great strategies that work for us to bring leads in. We're in an industry where people are trying to learn. So there's a lot of people kicking tires. We'll produce content, they're going to read it, but how do we actually get to the people that are doing the activities that make them well suited for a platform like this, or somewhere in the buying journey where like they're ready to try us? So really just figuring out how to find those people better, message them better. And then when we get all these leads in our funnel, continuing to really focus on scoring them properly so that we're like giving our sales team like the best leads to follow up with and they're not wasting their time.
Gotcha. All right, Michael, we're coming to an end now, and I would love to have a quick rapid fire with you. Are you ready for that?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay.
Bring it on.
All right. Who's your favorite marketer to follow on social media?
Oh man, my favorite marketer. There's someone recently who I've been following that I think is pretty savvy guy, and I'd recommend everyone check him out. His name's Kevin White, works at a company called Common Room. Common Room is a tool, actually a great. I've only watched their videos. I haven't actually used it. I've spent a lot of time investigating it, but Common Room actually started as like a community tool. I think managing communities, what it does, it's all that signal based. They have like 100 plus different signals you can surface to help you target your marketing efforts. Kevin White works there. He is someone who I really see as like on the cutting edge of marketing intelligence and the signal based targeting and all that. And he's always posting just incredibly useful stuff, great insights. So someone that I've started following the last year would highly recommend if you want to see what's on the bleeding edge of some of this new ABM and marketing sort of automation of how you can improve your targeting.
All right. What's the weirdest thing you have done in the name of marketing?
The weirdest thing I have done in the name of marketing. Oh man, I'm sure there's something strange. And I'm trying to think of all the trade shows we've been at. I don't know. We've probably run some weird contests before with weird prizes. I'm trying to think if we ever gave anything. I'm drawing a blank. I'm sure there's something weird we've done. I've never had to put on like a mascot suit or anything. Like Salesforce, Dreamforce used to have those no software people in the mascots with the big red X. I've never had to do anything like that. We've talked about it. I never had to do it. One year, Databricks, I wasn't involved, but they had like a Databricks at our big conference when I was there. They had that whack-a-mole game, like in the arcades, you whack the moles. They had one of those and it was like whacking big data problems or something. That was pretty fun. I didn't do it, but that was cool. I'm sure there's something.
Now, since you mentioned mascot, what's your favorite brand mascot of all time?
My favorite brand mascot? Oh, man. I don't know. Who's got a cool mascot? Does anybody have a cool mascot? I don't know. I can't think of one, to be honest. I don't know. I've got a good mascot. I wish it's funny. Like at Predibase, we're a very like serious sort of brand in a way. We're very focused on research and technology. It would like I see a lot of these brands, especially in the generative space, who have like llamas associated with them because if you follow LLMs, Meta has one of the most popular LLMs. It's called Llama. So you see all these like startups where like their logo is a llama. Yeah. And I'm not suggesting we do that at Predibase, but it does make it fun when you have a cool guy like that. I would say our open source project, Lorax, has a pretty cool little guy. He's pretty fun. So that's cool. So like our Lorax mascot is fun. People should check him out, Lorax Exchange. If you type that in, you'll see him. That's a cool one.
In fact, coach, we named our AI Lara. So,
Oh, really? Nice.
Looks like Whitey's girlfriend. Let's see, because you're into Gen AI. What's your last Gen AI prompt?
My what? My last prompt?
Yeah.
Wait, would you? My last prompt was probably actually like, it was something like writing a social post or a blog. The use case I gave earlier where I was having, a model actually help me simplify the language in a blog, right? How can I communicate this paragraph better? I do, if you follow our LinkedIn page. So one of the things, there's a new open source model that comes out almost every couple of weeks. It's probably when it comes out every day, but one notable, I'd say, model that comes out every 2 to 4 weeks. When those new models come out, like Llama 3.1 or Phi, whatever, Microsoft's Phi 2, whatever they are. When a new model comes out, people are always super excited to try them out. So one of the first things we do, we have a free trial we put on our platform so people can go prompt them and try it out. So one of the things I always do, I have a running joke that I'll do a GIF to show people, hey, we have this model on our platform, go try it out and post on social. People like GIFs, right? So I'll constantly put in there, I'll prompt the model on our platform. like how many llamas does it take to screw in a light bulb or something? It's a bad dad joke. And the responses are usually like, but I use it consistently for whatever reason. I did it once. I was like, I like that. So if you see on our LinkedIn page, next time we have a new model, I'm sure it'll be a GIF where you'll see our cool platform, how to prompt those models and what you can do with them. And you'll see that prompt, like how many llamas does it take to screw in a light bulb, and some really cheesy answer.
All right. Now going to a very last question. What's one marketing trend you hope never dies?
That never dies. Jeez, never dies. I have a hard time envisioning some of the things that I'm really passionate about ever dying. Like, I'm very passionate about content. That is how you break through the noise. It is how you deliver value to the world. Man, I guess my hope is that there's so much noise today in email, on LinkedIn, online. We're so stimulated with messages, and now with generative content, and actually people, as I mentioned before, using these tools incorrectly to generate just soulless content, or probably factually incorrect content, not using tools properly, where you should be using to optimize your content as a comparison. I hope we don't get so awash with like bad content that the good stuff can't rise to the top. I have faith in humanity. Good content will always rise to the top. Reddit has proven that model out, that people will upvote the stuff they like, although they often upvote the funniest thing. But good content, I hope good content continues to reign supreme. That's how we communicate with our audiences and show value. So I hope content continues, and I don't ever see it going away, but there's a lot of competition to break through. So I hope we don't lose good content.
Yeah, I think like even research agents are putting in a lot of effort to make original content, human generated content rank better than I think it will be it never does.
Yeah. Keep the content, keep your content human with a touch of AI. With a touch of AI. Let's make it better with AI, but let's keep it human at the core.
Yeah. All right, Michael. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all your input, great insights about the company, about your past experiences. Truly appreciate you taking time out with us. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. It's been a blast. Thanks for having me.
Stay positive.